Welcome. My name is Katie Merrill. I'm the Director of Admissions at Vermont Law School. Thank you for joining us for our Student Services webinar. Last week, we hosted several key people from our academic programs. That webinar is available. It's recorded on our Visit Us webpage. I'm very happy to be here. I have several co-hosts today. Simon Wilbanks from Admissions, Melissa Erickson from Financial Aid, and Elijah Gleason from Career Services. They will be working with you via question and answer and the chat function keys. I'm also very privileged to have our presenters. These are who I consider the most important people at Vermont Law School because they make sure you succeed, not only at Vermont Law School, but well into your career. I'm pleased to be here today with Richard Sala from Academic Success, Nicole Kaloran from our Experiential Learning Program, Abby Armstrong from Career Services, and Melody DeFlorio from Financial Aid. All right, so let's see. All you guys are joining. One thing I was curious if we wanted to start this chat session is where are you guys from, your university, where you went to school, and your major. I was hoping to see a little bit of where you're coming from. If you wanna, I haven't seen it. Okay, so I'll start. I'm from University of Utah and I was an English major. I know that Simon Wilbanks went to Bates. Simon went to Bates and was geology. Abby, I don't know where your undergrad was. Oh, here we are, we're starting. Okay, DC, psychology and Spanish, Worcester, Massachusetts, Syracuse. Oh, Syracuse, poli-sci.
Worcester, you gotta say Worcester.
Worcester. Yes, we love our Canadians. Oh wow, you guys are all pre-law, University of Minnesota. Oh, yep. Oh, you got political science, international relations, geology. Oh, from Vermont, Middlebury. Hello, my Vermonter. Wow. Oh, yes. Hey, California, applied psychology, Chinese studies. Oh, we have a terrific US Asia program. Criminal justice. Oh, wonderful. Oh, everybody, Vermont Law School, in our last incoming class, we had over 130 undergraduate institutions represented in the class and a number of majors. We always have a tie between environmental studies, science, and poli-sci. And every year it's different who's going to come ahead. But we have music majors, art majors. Everybody has distinct backgrounds here. And I am actually going to hand it over to Richard Sala, who can talk to you a little bit more about our academic success and what you bring to the table.
Awesome, thank you so much. So good afternoon, my name is Professor Richard Sala. I'm the Assistant Director of Academic Success here at Vermont Law School. Starting next semester, I'll also be teaching national security law. I'm always excited to hear from our students where they're coming from and what universities they're coming from and see all the different majors, because when you get here, you're all going to add something different to the class. And then you're all going to uniformly find out that the challenges of law school are very different than your undergraduate challenges. And that's where academic success really comes in to help you make that transition from undergraduate to law school. So if we could take a look at the next slide, I'll talk to you a little bit about the Academic Success Program. And I'll talk to you about how the Academic Success Program is set up to assist you all through your time at Vermont Law School. So let's go to the next slide. So as you look at this slide, if you start in the circle there where it says Jumpstart and Orientation, We try to get academic success involved with students as early as we possibly can. In fact, everybody that's here today to talk to you come from entities inside the school that will basically pepper you over the next 3 years as often as we possibly can to make sure that we are involved with you and making sure that you succeed in the areas that we're all responsible for. And so it starts today, really. It starts with these kinds of these webinars. It starts with when we have Admitted Students Day, getting in front of you, letting you know who we are, and letting you know right from the beginning, we're here to help you in any way that we can. So if you look at the circle right there, you're going to see Jumpstart and orientation. Some of you that come to Vermont Law School will opt to come earlier than orientation and start in a program called Jumpstart. And what Jumpstart is about a week and change of classes, or actually maybe it's 4 days, but it's a couple of days worth of classes that you'll come to law school early and get a jump start on your time at law school. And what will happen is a bunch of professors that you're going to have will come in and give presentations. You'll get to feel what it's like to be in the classroom, but also academic success will come and we'll start giving you sessions to prepare you for the law school environment. So we're going to give you classes on how to read and brief a case, introduction to legal analysis, introduction to synthesizing rules, how do I prepare for class, time management, how do I schedule enough time to study appropriately and be prepared for a class. And so we're going to do that during Jumpstart. And then you're going to come back a day or so later and we're going to start on orientation. And what we're gonna do is build on that foundation that we set during Jumpstart. So we're gonna give you more sessions on how to prepare for class. You're gonna get classes on legal writing. Again, you're gonna spend some time meeting your professors. But really, we're gonna set that tone, set that foundation for you that the Academic Success Program is here to help you both proactively and we'll come to you proactively, but also to encourage you to be proactive and come over to the old schoolhouse, which is the building where we're located on campus, and let us help you out. Leaving Jumpstart and orientation, heading down to your 1L year, you're going to see us periodically in your classroom, myself and the director, Professor Joseph Brennan, coming into the classes and just giving some refreshers on briefing a case. We're going to start to go a little further on in the preparation process, and we're going to teach you how to outline your classes. And when I say outline, I mean creating this really giant outline of information so that you can study for your final exams at the end of the year. One of the things that you're going to find to be very different from your undergraduate classes is for many of your law school classes, your grade really boils down to 1 3-hour exam that you get at the end of your semester. And so you're creating these outlines as you go so that at the end of the semester, when you come back to study, you have a place to study from. And so we're going to talk to you about that. Another thing that you're going to start to take advantage of is going to be the Academic Success Program mentors. And what those mentors are students that have had your professors in your 1L classes previously. And they're available at the old schoolhouse every day for you to come by and get help. Now, some people use those mentors when they are struggling with a concept to try to let someone else explain it and see if that helps them. Some people use it because they really feel like they understand the concept and they just want to come over and get a second set of eyes to look at it or a second set of ears to hear them explain it. And just to really solidify that they're understanding something. So that's one of those tools at your disposal. Academic Success also has a commercial materials library. These are kind of supplements to your class. Again, your class is the best place to learn information. Your teachers and your teacher assistants are the best places to get information. But sometimes we just need to hear it a different way. And so we have all these commercial preparation materials at the library that you can check out, and it's free of charge. Those kind of commercial supplemental materials can get very expensive. So we try to keep a pretty extensive library that you can access during your time at law school. Also, we'll start to come in and talk about as you moving on from your 1L year and getting into your 2L year, we're also going to start talking to you about at the end of your 1L year, we're going to start talking to you about the preliminary bar. And what the preliminary bar is it's basically a mock bar examination. And we've designed this to really give you a chance to feel very early on what it feels like to sit for a bar examination. And the preliminary bar examination, it only covers 4 of the topics that will be covered on the bar examination that you'll take at the end of law school. And we limit it to 4 because it's the 4 that you took during your 1L year. So you'll see property, torts law, you'll see civil procedure, and so those topics will be on the preliminary bar, and you'll have these multiple choice questions. You'll have some essay questions. You'll have something called the multi-state performance test. But the reason I tell you all that is because you'll see myself and Professor Brennan in your 1L classes, the second half of your 1L year, coming to you and giving you seminars on how to approach multiple choice bar examination questions. How do you write essays that will be successful on the preliminary bar? How do you prepare yourself for the performance test? So we'll come in during the second half of your 1L year. We'll give a bunch of seminars to prep you for that preliminary bar. You'll take it, you'll be successful, and then you'll be off to your 2L year. During your 2L year, we're going to be there to start giving bar examination info sessions, telling you how to apply for the bar. We're going to start offering you classes to prepare for the bar called Bar Exam Skills and Tactics. These classes are not something that you take in place of getting ready for the bar, but it's something that I would say ramps you up to get you ready for the bar. We'll help you figure out the right bar examination commercial prep for you. What we also offer, and we just started offering 2 on-campus bar examination programs in conjunction with Kaplan, where students do their commercial bar prep online, but they also get to come in 3 days a week for 3 hours a day with live professors from the Vermont Law faculty to ask questions and make sure that they're understanding the things that they're seeing in their commercial bar prep. And then at the end of your 3L year, we're going to be there to help you get ready for the bar examination. We're going to be there to encourage you throughout the study that it takes, the 500 to 600 hours it takes to pass the bar examination in your specific jurisdiction. We're there on the phone. We can get on chats just like this one to help you out. And we hope that when the lists start coming out, we actually are monitoring them just like you are. And we hope to be one of the first people to congratulate you when you successfully pass the bar. So that's really my summation for you about the Academic Success Program. The best thing I can tell you today is when you come to Vermont Law School, please, please, please come in and see us. Let us put faces to names and use us as a resource during the entirety of your time at law school.
Hi, I have a couple of questions that have come up, and one thing we'd like to know is how does academic support our master's students?
That's a great question. And so, to me, master's students, they are going through the same courses with our Juris Doctor students. And so all of the assets at our disposal for Juris Doctor students are also available to our master's students. If you're struggling in a class, if you're struggling with a paper, if you're struggling with a concept, if you need to come and see our academic success mentors, and if we don't have a mentor for that specific class, and this is actually also true for the Juris Doctor students, if you're just not connecting, you can't find a good vibe with the academic success mentors for that particular year, Professor Brennan and I are also open door. You can get on our schedule to come meet with us, and we'll help you out. Or we can be a liaison between you and your professors, where we reach out to them and just try to make sure we understand whatever problem that you have, so that we can relay that information. So our doors are open to our master's students, just like they're open to our Juris Doctor students. Our doors are just open to students.
All right, perfect, thank you. I would like to know, the attendees would like to know a little bit about universal bar exam versus state bar exam. Can you explain the UBE?
I can explain the UBE. So I can't go through all 50 jurisdictions. If you're interested in or just want a place to go, you can go to ncbex.org. The NCBE is the organization that writes the uniform bar exam, and they really have a lot of great charts on which jurisdictions are uniform bar and which have state-specific bars. But just to tell you a little bit about the difference between the two, if you're at a uniform bar examination jurisdiction, you are going to take the multi-state bar exam. You're going to have the multi-state multiple choice questions. You're going to have the multi-state essay questions, and you're going to have the multi-state performance test. And every jurisdiction under the UBE has that. And essentially what that boils down to is the multiple choice is 300, is a 3 hour, 2 3-hour blocks of multiple choice questions. The multi-state essay exam is 6 30-minute essays, and the MPT is one. Essentially, it can vary depending on which multi-state performance test you get, but you're going to have 90 minutes to either write a client letter or draft a memorandum or some assignment like that you're going to be given. And that is going to be uniform across the jurisdictions. Now, even in those uniform jurisdictions, the score to pass the bar exam is actually decided by the jurisdiction. So for instance, if you take it in Vermont, the current passing score is 270. If you take it in Minnesota, the current passing score is 260. If you're taking it in Alaska, the current score is 280. They get to set that, but the tests are the same. And the nice thing about the uniform bar exam is if you pass in a uniform bar jurisdiction, you can take that score with you to other states as long as the score that you got on the exam matches that state's passing score. And so just by way of example, if you sat in Minnesota and you got a 260 on the exam, you'd be licensed. You could get licensed to practice in Minnesota. But if you take that 260 to Vermont, you wouldn't be, because you got a 260, which is good for Minnesota, but not for Vermont. Now, if you took it in Minnesota and you got a 280, currently, as of today, you'd be able to transfer that score to any uniform bar examination jurisdiction. And I want to say we're somewhere in the neighborhood of 36 jurisdictions following the uniform bar exam. Now, real quick, on the state-specific bar exams, it really depends. The makeup of the test really depends on your jurisdiction, although many of those jurisdictions still use portions of the uniform bar exam. They may just, for instance, I'll use Michigan. I love to use Michigan as an example because I currently have a couple of students from Michigan. Michigan does not have a multi-state performance test. They have Michigan law-specific essay exams, and then the multiple choice portion. So in those jurisdictions, you would have to find out specifically what that jurisdiction has decided for a test, and you can do that by looking at the website that I told you about earlier. So first find out whether your jurisdiction, the one that you think you'll take the test in, is UBE, and if it's not, then you wanna go, you could just Google your state with like bar examiners, and then hop on, and they should have something on their website that tells you all about their bar examination.
I'm going to ask you one last final question. Vermont is unique, and it's a unique jurisdiction. And I know we had our first group of students take as what we call the 6th semester bar. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can. So Vermont is unique, right? Not only do we make great syrup, but we also make great lawyers. So the Vermont bar examiners have implemented something we call the fifth semester bar. And what it basically is at the end of your 5th semester, you can sit for the Vermont bar examination. And what that means is if you're a successful 5th semester bar taker, the day you graduate, you're ready to be licensed. And so what we've done, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I'll explain it a little better now, which is we've created something called the FEB program, February Early Bar. And what that is a course which is essentially a commercial bar prep, like I said earlier, with the added benefit of coming to class 3 days a week for 3 hours to sit with professors, ask questions, go through the lectures. And you can do that for credit. Now, normally that's not the case. When you want to sit for the bar exam, what the traditional path is you finish law school, you get a commercial bar prep program, and then you go and you study 500 to 600 hours to prepare for the bar, and then you go sit for the bar. Under this program, you would take a course that would where you would earn credit towards graduation, get the 500 to 600 credit hours, prepare for the bar, take the bar, be successful at the bar, come back and do your last semester, and boom, you're an attorney.
Did we time it right, Richard?
We did time it right.
Are we booming? See, this is you guys got this. Oh, all right. Thank you, Richard. And Richard also makes maple syrup. I don't know, do you bribe your academic success students that come to academic success with maple syrup, or?
You know, it's funny you should say that. We just started having some, faculty lunches on Microsoft Teams where students come in and join the professors for lunch. And I'm currently trying to get more students to join my lunch than Professor Brennan's lunch. And next lunch, I'm going to offer everyone who comes maple candies, and I will send them in the mail after wiping them down with Clorox wipes.
Oh goodness, this is wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, we're moving on. Academic success, utilize, and also a big part of Vermont law before practice ready was practice ready keyword. We've always been practice ready, and that's with the strong experiential learning department. So Professor Kaloran, I'd like you to take it from here. Thank you very much. She's also University of Utah. She's a University of Utah grad. So I'm sorry. Yeah. We're not a competitive law school, but we love to talk about our undergraduate institutions and basketball. I know someone's from Syracuse. I don't know. I have a really good basketball team too. But all right, Nicole, if you'd like to take it away.
Sure, and let me just warn everybody in advance, because I'm just going to give a shout out to all those parents out there who have littles at home right now, because we may be interrupted by one or more children today, and I'll try to minimize that, but thank you for your understanding of what happens. So I'm Professor Nicole Kaloran. I am a graduate of Vermont Law School. I graduated in 2012. I started in 2009 on the 3-year program, did the joint degree with master's and the JD, did a master's in environmental law and policy, so I can hopefully answer a couple questions about that as well. I just want to also give a shout out to the Jumpstart program that Academic Success runs. I did the Jumpstart program. I think I was maybe the second class to do Jumpstart. It is a fantastic start to your law school career. I can tell you from personal experience, it's invaluable to get you that jump start so that you can jump into classes your first week and just be ready to go. It's fantastic. I graduated in 2012, went into private practice, and then I came back to the school and to work with the JD externship program in 2017. JD externship program, I'm going to talk a little bit about in a few minutes, but really what I want to do is cover all the experiential options that we have at Vermont Law School. We have quite a few, and I know a lot of you are thinking about that. The JD students need at least 6 credits of experiential learning to graduate. We have a lot of options for you to meet that requirement. I'm going to go over those. Legal experience is the top criterion that legal employers look at when they're making hiring decisions in this field. So it's very important to get as much experience as you can. 6 credits is actually the floor. And we're about to be interrupted by a child. Legal experience, of course, gives you the ability to apply the laws that you'll be learning in law school and to see what the practice of law is like in the real world. We have a number of clinics. We have the clinics, to just give you an explanation, are sort of an in-house law firm. They handle specific subject matter. There you get a chance to work with attorneys and clients. You can be in court. You can be researching and drafting legal documents and memos. You will be taking a co-requisite class that helps you understand the nuances of practice in that area of law. clinics are fantastic. We have 6 of them right now. The South Royalton Legal Clinic is, I think, one of our oldest clinics. It's sort of a broad legal services clinic. It serves the underserved and underrepresented people in Vermont and the area. They serve a wide variety of civil legal needs. We have an immigration project, we have a family law project, and we have a veterans project. There's a broad variety of areas of law that you might be able to touch on in those 3 projects within the South Royalton Legal Clinic, and our attorneys are fantastic. We have the Environmental Advocacy Clinic. I know many of you, like me, came to Vermont Law School for the environmental law program. The Environmental Advocacy Clinic is a fantastic clinic. It's partnered with the National Wildlife Federation. They work with clients to advance environmental litigation in a lot of different areas. So that's a good area to get some structured experience with environmental law. We also have a really good environmental justice clinic that just started in fall of 2019, I believe. They're fantastic. It's the intersection of civil rights and environmental law. You get a chance to work with low-income communities and communities of color to advance an agenda to address racial disparities in health, welfare, and the environment. It's really, and all the reports that we're getting from students is that the Environmental Justice Clinic is phenomenal for community building, for connecting with people that you want to help with real-life problems. The Food and Ag Clinic, Food and Agricultural Clinic, you get to work on legal resources that are being shared with food system stakeholders, farmers, farm workers, food enterprises. You get to work on legislation and advocacy. That's a really good one if you have an interest in food and agricultural law. The Energy Clinic is very well known, the Institute for the Energy and the Environment. The Energy Clinic works on energy law and policy issues. They have a focus on renewable energy, climate change, local energy production, and in various areas of the electrical grid and the regulatory system. And finally, we have the Legislative Clinic. This is a spring-only clinic. You work with the Legislative Council with the Vermont Assembly, which is only in session in spring. You actually work with them in Montpelier at the State House. You research proposed bills, you advise lawmakers on the legislative process, and Vermont Law's Legislative Clinic is great too. So those are our clinics. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have about those, although my focus is the JD externship program. And I'll distinguish that from the master's externship program, which I'll talk a little bit about as well. JD externship program handles externships, which is essentially a 4-credit internship. If you've done an internship in the summer, or maybe some of you are from some schools that do co-op programs. A co-op is similar to an externship, and you essentially work in a law office or a judge's chambers for an entire semester, learning the practice of law hands-on. It is during the school year. Most students choose full-time, which is also known as the Semester in Practice program or SIP program here at Vermont Law School. It's we have a very good reputation of having a lot of flexibility for students to go basically anywhere that they want in the country. We don't do international placements right now, but we are doing anywhere in the country, including some of the territories. We have a student going to Guam next semester, which is great. You get to fully immerse yourself, basically. If you're doing full-time, you are essentially a full-time apprentice in that particular office. You can also do a part-time option if you don't want to do full-time. It's a great way to get out and make connections in the practice community that you want to settle into after graduation. We have a lot of students who end up spending their last year, who do the first 2 years on campus, and then they spend their last year in back-to-back externships with a couple of online classes to fill in the gaps for your credits. So great option. You're eligible in your 4th semester, so spring of your 2nd year, unless you're an advanced Juris Doctorate degree students, in which case you're special. But you're eligible in your 4th semester. You can do one in your 4th, 5th, or 6th semester. Again, full-time or part-time. If you're a traditional 3-year track student, you would be doing it in spring of your 2nd year or fall or spring of your 3rd year. You can do one full-time externship and multiple part-time externships if you want to get more experience. As far as where you can work for your externship, we have a broad variety of placements that we can connect you with. You can also establish a connection on your own if you want, or find somewhere where we haven't been before or haven't been for a while. Again, it's nationwide, all 50 states and the territories we can look at. You want litigation experience? We have some really great connections with prosecutor and defender's offices. You can possibly have the opportunity to do student practice in those offices where you actually get to stand up in court and argue cases as a student. If you want to work with a nonprofit advancing a specific agenda, we have a wide range of nonprofits that take students anywhere from environmental law, international law, human rights, to immigration, civil rights, a lot of different nonprofits that take students, and they're usually pretty phenomenal working with the attorneys there on the ground. You want to work with government? We have great connections at all levels of government in a lot of different states, and again, we can make connections too if we don't have one. Municipal attorneys, state attorney general or agencies, federal government, EPA, Department of Interior, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, Securities and Exchange Commission, everything in between. We place students at a lot of different federal agencies. If you want to work with a judge, writing judicial decisions and learning how a judge thinks, we have a lot of connections with trial courts and appellate courts at the state and federal level. If you want to work with private practice or in-house counsel, Vermont Law School is one of the few in the country who actually allow students to be placed in private practice for an externship. So a lot of law schools don't allow students to do that. We do. We think it's a good setting for students. We have connections with mostly small to medium-sized firms, but a couple of big law firms and a couple of in-house counsel offices in larger companies. So we have some great options for you. And then lastly, I just want to touch on what we call VSEL, Vermont Law School Entrepreneurial Legal Lab. This is a 2-semester program that gives you a solid basis in business and corporate law. It lets you apply it in the field. The first semester, you take a seminar course that focuses on business law, business formation, employment law, intellectual property law, and a number of other areas that you need to interpret and be able to apply if you're advising businesses. And then the second semester, you're actually placed with a Vermont firm who is helping business clients in these areas. So you get to apply what you've learned in the seminar. Master students, we have great experiential options for you as well. You can work with some of the clinics that are in the specific subject matter of your particular master's degree. And if you want to do an externship for your master's degree, which is what I did a semester in practice at the Vermont Supreme Court. I did a semester in private practice, part-time with a local law firm, and I also did a master's externship with the Agency of Natural Resources in Vermont. You can do a master's externship during the semester or even during the summer. You actually work with Career Services to help set that up, so they can help answer some questions about that. But that's the experiential options at Vermont. We really have a lot to offer you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, I have a question from Carrie. How competitive is the spring-only legislative clinic?
It is pretty competitive. I don't know how many spots they're going to have, but I believe in the past they only had 6 spots. So if you look at a class size of over 100 students, it's going to be pretty competitive. That said, they do like to take students, and there's not as many students as you might think who want to be in the State House for an entire semester. So it'll be a smaller group, but pretty competitive within that.
What do you get paid during JD externships? This is from Callista.
Good question, Callista. So that was actually not an option until recently, but it is currently an option to get paid for an externship. It's very few of our externship placements that are actually willing to pay students. But it is possible to get paid. If there's a particular organization that wants to pay you for your semester in practice, then we can discuss that. We have to approve it, but it's definitely a possibility. It's nice if you can get it, but don't count on it.
Now, this is a question for you and perhaps Elijah. Master's students and externships, internships, international, any options for them? I know as far as clinics that they can participate in all our clinics. Can you go a little bit into that?
Sure. I think so you want specifically for master's students, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to let Eli handle that one. I know that we do master's externships, and I know that the Career Services Office is also the one who helped all of our students connect with possible summer internships and get into those. But I'll let Eli answer that one.
Hi, Katie. It's Eli.
Hi, Eli.
So yes, it is possible to do an international master's externship. Generally speaking, we don't do too many of those. So it would be more of an individual basis in terms of setting that up. But we have done them in the past, and it is possible to do them.
And Elijah, I understand it too that the master's students can participate in clinics as well. Also, as I heard most recently, our environmental advocacy clinic. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can't talk too much about that, but I do know that you can only participate in certain ones because there are some of our clinics are for JDs because they do a lot of litigation and things like that, and so they would need a law degree or be in the process of getting that. But it is possible to do externships, master's specific externships with some of the energy clinics, the food and ag clinic, things like that.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Okay. Well, Nicole, thank you very much. And it was fun seeing the little one behind. That's so cute. I miss seeing them on campus. Yeah.
Maybe I'll bring the baby on after we're done and she can say hello.
Perfect. All right. Okay. Now, career services. This is y'all want jobs and we work really hard with you. So I'm going to hand it over to Abby Armstrong, our Director of Career Services. She is, Abby, been on campus for how many years? Third? Is it third?
Let's just say a lot.
All right, take it away, Abby.
Great. Good morning, everyone. And I am happy to be talking to you via technology. I can't see myself, so if my face is too close to the screen, somebody tell Katie and I'll move back. So I'm happy to be talking to you by technology, but I look forward to when we will have the opportunity to talk face to face. You know, for someone who does the kind of work that Eli and I do, the jazzy part of it is being able to see you, work with you, talk to you, feed off of the enthusiasm that you have for whatever it is that's going to bring you to Vermont Law School or to law school wherever you end up. And that's really the excitement that we love to tap into. So to the extent that we can recreate that as much as possible this morning, I'm going to try. There's 3 points I really want to make today. The first is that I hope this is very much the beginning of a conversation and not the end of one. So much of what we do is personal, and I hope that you will follow up with us and reach out to ask questions that are specific to your situation. The second point I want to make really relates to how we approach working with you. And again, it builds on this idea that we enjoy your company, we enjoy your insights, we enjoy what you are going to bring to the table when you arrive in South Royalton. And we build our approach around that. So regardless of whether you are an AJD, an LLM student, a master's student, a 3-year JD student, an online LLM student, whatever the degree program is that you are considering, we have set up a program in our office to respond to that, to address the concerns that are specific to your particular degree program. So for instance, if you're an AJD student and you're thinking about the summer start AJD, not only am I going to be your career counselor, I'm going to be part of a team that is also providing you with academic advice, because it's so important if you're going to be there for a 2-year period of time to combine what you're going to do academically with what you're going to do in terms of your professional development. If you're a joint degree student, you're going to be doing something similar with counselors like Eli, who is a joint degree grad of VLS. We try to match you with people who understand the situation that you're in and get you the specific advice that you need to have that speaks to the issues that are important to you. Ditto with the master's student. We have master's only students. We have a counselor named Monica Collins, who is a master's grad, and she is dedicated to the residential master's students and the online master's students. So everything she does is focused on trying to help the year program that you're in. Maybe it's a 1.5 years, sometimes people extend it, to work with you, to help you go from soup to nuts as quickly as possible, because it's such a quick period of time. So I could go through, I think you get the point. What we try to do is really combine all of the things that we have to offer at Vermont Law School, and then work with you individually to share that information and put it into some sort of package that's going to helpfully get you from where you are right now to where you want to go, however many years down the road. And I'll just give you an indication of how I work with a student, and this is what I'm doing right now. 3 weeks ago, we did it face-to-face. Now I'm doing it either through Microsoft Teams or through Zoom or on the telephone. Technology is just, changing our world. Uh, and the way that I begin working with someone is I just say, why are you at Vermont Law School? What is it that you're hoping to accomplish? Maybe you don't know that yet. So we might have a few conversations about that, how to decide what it is you want to do. And then we start to talk about, my dog is starting to interrupt me here. Then we start to talk about whether your academic program that you're setting up reflects the interests that you have and is actually going to give you the information that you need to have. So if you want to do environmental work, obviously it's important that you take some environmental law courses. Similarly, if you want to work for a corporate law firm, you're going to have to take corporations. You're going to have to take some of the advanced classes that are going to give you the solid background there, because that's what the employers are going to expect. So once we get a handle on what the interests are that you have, and a number of our students have a broad range of interests, and that's fine, we try to make sure that your class schedule is going to reflect those interests, and make sure that you're not leaving any holes, so that you have the opportunity to put your best foot forward. We then add into that, and Katie, it might be worth it to jump to the next screen for a second, if you can. We then add into that all the things that people are talking about here, and I won't go through it again, you need to get good at certain things. Employers have an expectation that you are gonna be on the job, and you're gonna be able to have solid research and writing skills, and you're gonna be able to talk about the law. We try to make sure that you find opportunities to do those things. Some people don't want to do research and writing. That's not their thing. They might be quick on their feet. They might end up going into something like a prosecutor's office, where what you're doing all day long is just talking to a judge. It's a very different dynamic than if you work for a court and you're in the back room, right, doing research and writing briefs. So we try to help you figure out, which of those things might make sense for your personality. But regardless, we're going to, while you are a student at VLS, we are going to encourage you to really focus on research and writing and the ability to orally articulate whatever it is that you're learning. Because it's the stock and trade of anybody who is a legal professional. We also, as Professor Kaloran said, there's experience matters. We have these fantastic clinics. They are wonderful places for you to get a structured environment with a supervisor who's a staff attorney that's going to pay attention to you and help you transition from being in the classroom into a setting that might be a little uncomfortable, but it's going to be more comfortable by virtue of the fact that you have these wonderful people who are shepherding you through that process. And I will say, just to follow up on something that Eli said about the environmental advocacy clinic for the master's students who are out there. We have a new director of that program, a guy named Jim Murphy. He started last fall. I think he is unbelievably fantastic. I think there's just a lot of really exciting things that are going to happen there. So I wouldn't give up hope that if you wanted to go in and somehow be a paralegal with the environmental advocacy, I don't want to say action, but it's advocacy clinic. That's not out of the question. I certainly wouldn't give up on it too soon. And all the other clinics, as Eli said, are certainly available to you. And we encourage these clinics. We encourage these clinics because they are really a terrific place to begin. We also encourage you to get hands-on experience in the geographic place you want to end up. Again, as was stated, the externship programs, whether they're the master's or the JD, are, if you have a law school in the middle of Vermont, we have to have vehicles to help get you from South Royalton to California, to Washington State, to Utah, to Texas, to Worcester. I grew up outside Worcester. It doesn't seem like it's that hard a word to pronounce, but everybody butchers it. And it is, there are so many opportunities for you to get to the place that you want to get to and get, again, structured experience, that we spend a lot of time making sure we work closely with the externships and the clinics, making sure that those experiences dovetail nicely with your regular summer opportunities. If you're in the 3-year program, JD program, you have a couple of summers to play with. We figure out how to integrate all this information together so that you have maybe a clinic, maybe an externship, maybe both, and a summer or two. And then you're really in a terrific experience, position, to really have the law background you got to have, the research and writing background that you have to have, and the hands-on experience that you have to have, both to impress an employer and to feel good internally that you actually have the skills to perform the work. And I think that is such an important part of this. So many students are nervous about that transition to actually being a legal professional. And I think I must say this 100 times a week, don't confuse being unfamiliar with something with being unqualified. And what we're focused on is trying to make you, to familiarize you with as many things as we can so that you actually genuinely start to feel qualified. Because if you are confident in your skills, you're gonna hit it out of the ballpark. You're gonna do a great job, and that's routinely what happens with our students. With respect to the summer opportunities, I would just say we do what everyone else does at every school that you're probably looking at, and that is run an on-campus program. We have some employers that are deeply dedicated to Vermont Law School. We have alumni who work at a number of the employers that recruit on campus. They are deeply dedicated to the success of the school and the success of our students. We call on them frequently. They respond virtually every time. And so just to give you a quick example, an alum called me from a place called the Chesapeake Legal Alliance in Annapolis, and very interesting organization. She is coordinating the pro bono lawyers there. She works with lawyers in the Maryland area on a variety of community-based environmental projects, and she knows that we're all hunkered down at home, and they have a number of projects. And so she reached out and said, Abby, do you know anybody who might want to pick up some 10 hours a week doing some research for a group in Annapolis that's dealing with some kind of issue? And we have those students that are at home, they're bored, so it was really just there's just a lot of interest in the school on the part of alumni. The other two boxes, Professor Sala already talked about the bar exam. I'm not going to go through that again. It's obviously an important piece of the puzzle. For those of you who are in the master's program, there's other things you want to do, land related work, having familiarity with GIS is more and more important. It's finding those things that are going to complement the coursework that you're doing at VLS, and making sure that we're paying attention to that early on in the process. And that's exactly what Monica does with the masters, and what we're doing with the JDs. And then there's all what are so-called the soft skills, which are just deal breakers. If you don't know how to behave professionally in a professional environment, you will either not get a job or you will not last on the job. So we spend a lot of time talking about how to interview, how to be appropriate in a social environment, how to respect confidentiality, how to be perceived as someone who's trustworthy. These things seem like, not big deals, but oh my gosh, you would be amazed at the stories. Just go online and, poke around, and you're just going to see stories that you're going to want to hope it's never you. We also then spend a lot of time, once we kind of make sure that your schedule is up and running, and you're in a, you've got yourself in a situation that by the time you graduate, you have filled in all of these boxes. Because if you fill in all of these boxes, you'll get a job. That is the bottom line. And even if you don't fill them all in 100%, you'll still get a job. It just makes it a little easier. And we're trying to make it as easy as possible. So once we've kind of gone through all those, I'm pointing at the circle. It probably makes no sense what my hand's doing. We try to make sure all your materials, your resume, your cover letter, all the things that you have to send out to people, we want to make sure those things are reflective of all the awesome things that you've done while you've been in school. And so we spend a lot of time on that as well. That is the gist of what we do. Along the way, I think we have a lot of interesting students who are not necessarily the typical law student or the typical environmental professional. Those things about you that make you different and extraordinary just completely enhance, like I said, the role that Eli and I play. We also have one other person in the office that I want to point out, and her name is Mary Sheffer, and she is our recent grad counselor. And she works with 3Ls up until the point at which you get a job. So once you graduate, we don't just cut you loose. There's a lot of changes happening in the legal employment world. A lot of employers are hiring a little later. They want to make sure you take a bar exam. They want to make sure you have some tie to a place. And so Mary Sheffer is available specifically for you once you have graduated, because our time is being used up by students on campus. So it really is from the moment that you are accepted to BLS, we're happy to start talking to you. And in fact, I am talking to a number of people right now, right on through until you get your first job. And then interestingly, the relationship stays beyond that because the person becomes an employer, and they start to hire our students. And I have been at BLS long enough to have seen that happen over and over and over again. And it's really fun to work with somebody. One of you could be 5 years from now, I could be talking to you about you wanting to hire somebody after their second summer. And that's just the nice little, part of staying at a place a long time. The last thing I wanted to touch on is the effect of what's happening with the coronavirus and career services at the moment. And up until today, I have to say that I have been very heartened by the response of most of the employers who have hired our first and second year students. Students will be working remotely unless something changes dramatically. But the employers have reached out to many of the students. They have set up an opportunity to do whatever it is they're going to do remotely. And I'm like I said, I'm encouraged by that. Maybe that'll change in the next month, but I'm not feeling that. Again, I think one of the reasons for that is because we have so many students who go to work in smaller places and I was talking to a guy earlier this week who is going to the National Wildlife Federation office in Northern Michigan. They reached out to him and said, we just want to let you know, we're still very interested in having you come. We'll just have to change, how we interact, but the projects are going to be the same, etc. And at the same time, we had 3 students offered jobs this week, summer jobs, which is also surprising to me because I thought maybe people would be a little more cautious, but one's the EPA in Boston, one's Department of Interior in Atlanta, and the Fish and Wildlife Service, and I can't remember which office it was. But so I just want to say all of this to say, keep moving forward, onward. I think none of us would pick what's happening right now for how we're all spending our springs. But I think in terms of your long-term professional opportunities, there will be some, and that is something that I would be happy about if I was you. So happy to answer questions.
Yeah, thank you, Abby. I do have a few questions. One, more of a you have your environmental track, but then you also have our non-environmental track. And this question is, would you be able to support students who are interested in starting their own practices after law school? Is that a possibility? And do many of your students do this? I'm thinking of Amy Davis and she hung a shingle.
So let's talk about Amy Davis. So the answer is yes. You can. We certainly talk to students. I can't tell you that I would recommend that as the absolute first job. Of course, it depends on your personality, your financial situation, because whether you're going to be doing this in your hometown or you're going to start someplace else where you're going to have to build relationships in that community, because you've got to have clients if you're going to make money, and that doesn't happen immediately. It is a process. So using Amy Davis as an example, Amy hung out a shingle probably 6, 7, 8 months to a year after graduating and worked with someone else initially. And she's a Vermonter, and she's living in an area of the state where there are not a lot of lawyers, and there were a lot of things that came together. And yes, she has the personality to move forward, and she's going to be very successful. So it's definitely a possibility, but I would probably recommend, and I think everyone in the world would probably recommend, that you go someplace for a little bit of time, so that you have a mentor, and then, maybe within a year or so, you move to that solo practice. And it's not uncommon. It's uncommon for it to be your first job. It is certainly not uncommon for it to happen within a couple of years of graduating. And it's also not uncommon for you to band with a buddy or two that you want to be in practice with. So you're not a solo, you're just a small firm, and you're working with people that you know and trust.
Thank you. You touched on something which one of Carrie has asked. There have been statistics that represent a lawyer shortage, and generally for some states, Arkansas, Texas, I believe Alaska. Is there a lawyer shortage, or there a specific field that is short on lawyers? How does Vermont law help students in a recession?
So there is a lawyer shortage. It's actually an interesting dilemma. There are a lot of people the baby boomers, who are theoretically retiring, moving out of the workforce, and there are a lot of lawyers who are moving out of the workforce, and it's happening at the federal government, and it's happening in private practice as well. I'll use the state of Vermont. Vermont is a state that it has a shortage of lawyers. We are routinely contacted by lawyers who are looking to retire, and they want to bring on a new young lawyer who they can mentor and then turn the practice over to. It's the tricky part about that is that many of our students want that to happen in Burlington or Montpelier. Amy Davis is in St. Johnsbury, which is in the middle of the Northeast Kingdom. It's not necessarily perceived as the hot spot of Vermont, although it is a fascinating, mid-sized Vermont city, which is to say small. So there has to be this sort of synergy between what the new lawyer is looking for and where the people who are retiring are located. Another example, there's a shortage of public defenders, not in Burlington, not in Montpelier, but again, in the more rural areas of the state. And that's not where someone who's 25 years old is necessarily looking to be at this moment in time. So it's a gap. And there's committees at the Vermont Bar that are dealing with this. I think it's very safe to say that the same thing that I'm describing in Vermont plays out not just in rural states, but in a lot of states everywhere, because you've got baby boomers everywhere who are moving out of the workforce. There's a second part to that question, which was I can't remember what it was.
Or specific field. Is there a specific field that is short attorneys?
I would suggest that healthcare I mean, we knew healthcare was a hot area. Environmental health law, of course, that we offer it continues to be a big deal. The need for general practice attorneys to help people who are not eligible for low income groups like legal services, but who are in sort of just regular middle income people who need to get divorced or need to have a will, or any of the sort of general services that lawyers provide, those remain in demand. We have a new family law professor who is working with people at the clinic, which does a lot of family law, and there's all of a sudden a lot of interest in family law, and family law is like liquor stores. You always need them, even in a recession, for whatever people don't get along, and people sure are seeming to be continuing to drink. So I think beyond that, you can try to, I mean, obviously, if you're interested in Vermont Law School, hopefully there's an interest in environmental for those of you who want to do that. We work sort of 50-50 with people who want to do environmental and people who are not interested in environmental. And it doesn't really matter much to us what it is that brings you to VLS. We're going to help you if you want to do environmental. We're going to help you set that schedule up. And if you came to do environmental work and you end up deciding that you really want to do criminal justice work, we're going to help you set that up. There's always a need for people in the criminal justice system, and we have a lot of interest in that every year. So I can't really tell you, patent law is super hot, or because that's kind of not the cycle that I see us in at the moment.
Yeah, perfect. Well, good. Well, thank you, Abby. I really appreciate it.
Can I just say one last thing, which is,
Of course.
please reach out. Everything we like to do is through talking to you as an individual. So please reach out to us through admissions. They'll get you the contact info of the person who will schedule you with one of us, and then we can address your particular concerns.
Thank you. Thank you, Abby. Well, all right. So careers. It is a great department, and I do appreciate all that you do for our students. And from being in admissions and seeing them go through that journey, it's true. And I'm starting, because I've been in admissions 7 years, and some of my favorite students are hiring now. So I love that. But we hope that a lot of our students are driven by mission. They also do like to make money. And so I'm going to transition from, making money after law school to financial aid. So Melody, here we go.
Yeah, financial aid. So yeah, it's all well and good, but how are you going to pay to get there? I like to always say that, yes, my name is Melody DeFlorio. I'm the Director of Financial Aid, and I am the most important person at Vermont Law School. That's where we need a laugh track. But so, yeah, I'm joined today too. In the background, you'll see Melissa Erickson. She's available via chat to answer any questions that you might have as we go along. Fun fact about me, I actually grew up in South Royalton, Vermont. I went to school there, elementary, high school, went off to college, and I was like, I'm leaving the small town life, and I'm back in South Royalton because it just drew me back in, like Vermont does. So yeah, I'm going to talk to you about your options to help, make law school an affordable experience for you. And when we talk about financial aid at the graduate level, whether you're pursuing the JD or you're a master's student, there are different avenues to help you pay for those expenses. So the first thing that students usually look for when they're looking to fund their education is you're looking for that free money. And that is going to be, I don't know if anyone has issues being able to hear me right now too. I've been having some difficulties with my internet connection. So just, Katie, are you guys able to hear me right now? Just wanted to make sure before I go on. It looks like things are freezing up for me. So I'm just looking, sorry, excuse me a minute, because everything's frozen on my computer. So I don't know if someone could send me
I can hear you, Melody.
okay, can you see me now again?
See you and I can hear you. This is Ashley.
Okay, my apologies. I'm not really able to see any of the presentation. This is how it all usually, of course, everything's been running fine this whole time, but I can't actually see the screen, but it's fine. I'm going to keep going. I've got a copy of the PowerPoint over here. So anyways, people are going to be paying for school, usually with scholarships. So you're looking at merit awards. And Katie, I don't know if you could step in right now and talk a little bit about the merit scholarship process, because that all happens on the admission side. And usually I'm notified about any merit awards you might receive.
I don't think Katie's on right now.
Oh, so Katie's lost it too. Oh,
Yeah.
no. Well, I can talk, I guess, a little bit about the merit scholarships too. So in terms of the merit scholarships, I know that admissions, they're going to get your application. They're going to review a number of factors. They're going to be looking at GPA. They're looking at your LSAT score. But they also like to look at holistically, at your experience in terms of, what did you study in school? What grades did you get with particular majors that you had, or different classes that you had? And then you'll be awarded a merit scholarship based on that information. And that merit scholarship information gets sent on to me in my office. So we'll put that in your financial aid package. And that will go to help offset tuition expenses, tuition and fees. So that's the first level. So I'm going to hold off on talking about admission scholarships for a minute. The next area that we look at is need-based scholarships. So when students have a scholarship that covers less than about $19,000, we'll be able to take a look to see if you qualify for any merit-based aid. Need-based aid. And we look at a number of factors that comes from the FAFSA, which I'll talk about in a minute as well. So if you submit the FAFSA, we'll take a look at your financial history with your financial history with your family, because assuming you've done undergrad, you've been reporting your FAFSA information from anywhere to 2 to 4 or more years, and we'll look at historical data to determine what need-based aid you might qualify for. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and look at my slides because I can't seem to see the screen, and we're going to talk about the FAFSA. Like I said, I'll go back to the mission scholarship after I get through this. So the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. And you can, I think Melissa's going to be helping me out by sharing a link to that site. So it's the FAFSA.ed.gov website, so you can link onto there. And the nice thing about being the FAFSA as a graduate level, professional level student is that you no longer have to report your parents' information. Hi, Katie. I see Katie is getting back on.
It was a complete crash.
It was. I got crashed too, so I didn't have any of the slides, but I was just kind of going with on the side here. So welcome back, Katie.
Thank you, everybody.
So yeah.
I'll start back with the slide program.
Okay, that's fine. So I was talking about the FAFSA.
Oh, perfect.
And how to apply for the FAFSA. And the nice thing is that you don't have to report your parents' information anymore. So you don't have to be nagging your parents to send copies of W-2s and help, all of that fun stuff that you got to do in an undergrad. You don't have to do anymore. It's really, you're going to go on, fill out the FAFSA. It's going to ask you for tax information from 2 years ago. Now, if you were an undergrad student, that's probably going to be pretty cut and dry. But also the nice thing is you can link right to the IRS website and pull in all of that information. So it really doesn't take more than 15 to 20 minutes to complete a FAFSA. Once you do that FAFSA and you put in Vermont school code, I don't know, Melissa, if you want to put in our school code for them, that they would use to apply for the FAFSA, so that we get that application within 3 to 5 business days. We'll get a copy of your FAFSA and we'll be able to award you a combination of different kinds of loans. So I'll talk more about the loans shortly, so more details about those loan programs. But the way that we award your scholarships in your student loans is based on what we call the cost of attendance. Now, the cost of attendance is broken out into tuition and then cost of living. Now, tuition is pretty cut and dry. It's, you know, what we charge each year for your tuition and also for your fee expenses. And that's usually what your scholarships go towards, is to help cover that. Now, the cost of living is interesting because many of you in undergrad, you might have had situations where you just had a room and board cost of attendance, and that was kind of a flat rate that the institution charged you for those costs of living. And that might include like meal plans, you know, the cost of living in a dorm or a suite, whatever it might be, usually institutional housing. Now, Vermont Law School, you get to find your own apartment all on your own. We're not in charge of your housing. So really the cost of living is going to be up to you to determine what that's going to be. Now, most of our students find that they can budget pretty well on anywhere between $1,200 and $1,500 a month to cover rent, food, transportation expenses. So what you spend on your costs of living is kind of up to you, but we have an allocation that we allow. So when you go into your financial aid award, you'll see the tuition, the fees, and then all of these budget items that we tell you, we don't expect you to spend more than X amount on each of these items. So when you get your financial aid award and you see at the very top, it's going to show a number that's like $75,000. Well, that's not what it's actually going to cost. It could cost up to that amount should you have those expenses, but we certainly hope that you don't need to spend all that amount on the cost of attendance each year. And I'm still not seeing the PowerPoint. Are you sharing that? Or are you sharing your screen at this point? You're muted, so it's fine. I'll keep going.
Melody,
Yes, I'm trying to have the PowerPoint up. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So we're going to just keep going. So, so that's how we're going to, you know, take a look at what we award you to help cover those expenses. And you can then let me know how much you need to borrow. The nice thing too about the financial aid is you can tell us that you need a certain amount of loan money to cover those living expenses, and, you know, err on the side of, you know, not needing as much. And then later on during the year, something might come up, an emergency, an expense, and you can come to us and we can always increase your loan at that point. We do also offer work study, which is really great. That gives you an opportunity to, hey, there we go.
Sorry, it's not in slide form, but
It's so the work study program is great because it gives you an opportunity to earn money instead of having to borrow money. And you can find any number of jobs on campus or even off campus. So for our on-campus work study, there's the library, there are professors who are looking for help with research assistants. You could get a job working in career services or financial aid, any number of jobs that you can find on campus, and you'd be able to earn money throughout the year to help offset any of those cost of living expenses that you might have. Now, for our 1L JD students, we're going to tell you that you can't actually earn work study because we want you to sleep, because you're going to have kind of a hefty course load your first semester. You're going to be adjusting to life in law school. So we don't award first year JD students work study money. In certain cases, if you're a note taker, you'd be able to earn work study. If you wanted to earn it during your second semester, that's an option as well. But you have to have, you know, above a 3.0 GPA and kind of be able to show that you've got a solid footing and that you'll be able to earn work study without it impacting, you know, your studies. So budgeting is going to be key. Budgeting, we work with students in our office. We have a budget worksheet that will help you kind of work through what is it that you're going to be spending every month and how can you budget accordingly. And you're going to want to take, as you look at your financial aid award, you're going to want to sit and figure out, all right, what's my rent going to be? Do I have a car payment? Do I have a credit card payment? Food, you know, things like that. Not that you'll need Netflix because you'll be working too much to be able to watch Netflix. But all of those monthly expenses, figure out what they are, take that number, multiply it by 12, because over the course of the year, and that's what you're going to need. So let's go ahead and talk about student loans at this point, because just so you know, I'm talking about you're going to need to borrow this money. You're going to use this money to help pay for any remaining tuition that you might owe and also the living expenses. So these are the loan programs that are available to graduate and professional level students. There's a direct unsubsidized loan, and then there's a graduate plus loan. Now you might be familiar with an unsubsidized loan from undergraduate financial aid, and that was but in this case, you can take out an unsubsidized loan for $20,500 per year. That's the maximum. Right now, the interest rate is hovering around 6%. With everything going on, I imagine we'll see that number kind of drop a little bit, which is good for that interest rate. So it will accrue. The interest will accrue every month as you're in school, but it's not going to get capitalized, into the principal. So it's not like it's, like it's not compounding is the word. So it's not growing. It's just going to accumulate interest that will kind of hang out there until you graduate, and then it'll get lumped into the principal. Same with the Grad Plus, except it has a higher interest rate, around 7%. The Grad Plus loan is used if you need to borrow more than $20,500 a year. So if, for example, if your scholarship doesn't cover, if you have to use the unsubsidized loan to pay for your tuition expenses, and you need the Grad Plus to live off of for living expense money, that's available. Something you should know about the Grad Plus loan is that it is a credit-based loan, so you can have adverse credit. It's not an issue if you have like a not great credit score. It's really if you have an issue with defaulted on a student loan, which would actually prevent you from getting any federal loans, or if you had bankruptcy, or if you are in collections on something. So if you think there are any of those issues going on right now, now's the time to start planning to get that taken care of. So that way, when you start, whether it's the summer and the fall, you've ironed out those issues, and you can be sure to get the Grad Plus. Our office also works with students to start talking about repayment for your loans once you've even before you go into repayment. During your first year, we start working with students to let them know, you borrowed X amount this year. If you multiply that by 3 years, if you're a JD, this is what your debt's going to look like by the time you graduate, and how can we make sure that you're going to have manageable payments once you graduate. We'll go over with you all the different kinds of repayment programs. A lot of students are talking about public service loan forgiveness, which is still very much in place, and we have students who are, tracking that and taking advantage of that. Our alums who are involved in that program basically means if you're working in a nonprofit, like a 501c3 or a government job, that after 10 years of making monthly payments in an income-based repayment plan, anything you haven't paid off will be forgiven completely, and it's not considered a taxable event. So that means you won't get taxed on any of the amount that's forgiven. So that's great. It's a really great program for students who want to go into the public service jobs that maybe aren't, super lucrative or well-paid kind of positions, but it will give you the opportunity to pursue your passion in whatever it might be in public service, and make sure that your loan payments are going to be affordable. But there are a number of repayment options, and that's what our office is going to be helping you with over your time at BLS, to make sure that, when you get that first loan statement out of, 6 months after you graduate, that you don't have the breakdown moment that I had when I graduated from college and I got that first loan stub, and it showed me what I owed, and there was tears and Ben and Jerry's involved, and I'm just like, I can't make this work. But we're here to help you even after you graduate, if you have any questions about your repayment options at that point. So Katie, I was going to also mention the Mission Scholarship Program that Katie's office is in charge of awarding the mission scholarships. And usually we just get notified of students who've had this scholarship granted to them, and they can use it over the summer or towards experiential learning opportunities. Katie, do you want to talk more about the Mission Scholarship?
Yes, and we've extended the deadline until April 1st, and it's a special program here. It developed a few years ago to honor our students who are mission-based. So I offer 2 mission-based scholarships, 2 types of. environmental mission scholars and social justice mission scholars. And so what we're looking for is we're looking for your advocacy and your dedication. And how you apply, it's very easy. You send an essay, a simple essay to admissions at admis@vermontlaw.edu. And we are waiving the letter of recommendation. We usually require a letter of recommendation, but we're waiving it, and we'll review that. It's a $3,000 stipend to use if you have an unpaid internship or if you have a project. If you are in school, then the fully in school and you're working on a project, then it goes towards your tuition. But it's a wonderful program. And what I love about it, and this is so VLS, we're not a competitive campus, but these two programs, they try and out advocate each other. So I've got my environmental scholars doing a project, and then I have my social justice scholars trying to outdo. So it's kind of fun to see that, and it's a good group. It's become a pretty tight-knit group. So I do hope you send that in or email me if you have more questions.
Yeah, so I do see that there's been a question that I kind of want to address with everyone too. It says, I heard it's strongly recommended not to get a job during your 1L year. How do people pay for their rent and other necessities during their 1L if you're not allowed to have a job? Well, that's where, where the student loan money would come in. It's not recommended to get a job where no one's going to monitor any of that. No one's going to monitor to tell you you can't go and work off campus. We're going to tell you you can't do the work study because that's something that that we have that control over. But definitely you'd want to start working with your academic advisor, I would say, and just making sure that you're not getting overwhelmed. And we're going to make sure you have the resources, even with student loans, and we can talk to you about the return on investment in getting a loan and using that money to live off of and to help support you in your first year. No one wants to have huge amounts of debt. You only want to borrow what you need to borrow, and we can work with you on that. But just looking to see, the payoff of using a loan to help you in your first year versus trying to work 20 to 40 hours on top of going to law school, and you're just not going to be successful. So it's really an investment in your education in yourself and your success in your first year to take advantage of those loan programs. And you'll find that they're really not as scary as sometimes they get portrayed, especially by the media, like the student loan crisis. Loans are manageable. The average student loan debt nationally is about $150,000 for JD students. Now, over the course of repayment, and depending on your repayment options, if you're doing income-based, that could be a $300 loan payment every month. And that's just an investment like a mortgage would be, like your health insurance is. You're investing in your career and your future and what you're passionate about. So that's how you really need to be looking at student loans. And certainly, once you get through your first year, you have opportunities over the summer for paid internships or to apply for fellowship programs to help offset those expenses.
Abby, do you have anything you could add in about the importance of your first year and really hunkering down with your studies?
Your first year is important, obviously. It's important on a variety of levels. I mean, I think Professor Sala talked about all the efforts that are made to make sure that you're understanding how to approach going to school, how to approach the core classes, because the first year curriculum, which is essentially the same at every law school, is the basis, not just the foundational basis for what you'll take in the rest of your law school career, but it's also a large part of what gets tested on the bar exam. So if you come out of your first year not having really done a good job of learning the basics, it's going to hamper you for the rest of the time that you're in school and while you're studying for the bar. From a career perspective, if you have aspirations, so 1L summer is sort of a a nice add-on summer. It's not often the critical summer that dictates the direction that someone's going to end up going after school. And that's why if you're thinking about doing the joint degree in order to get a specialization in either restorative justice, and we really haven't talked about the restorative justice program at all. I don't know if there's anybody out there, but there's been a lot of interest in that. And Monica Collins in our office works with the Masters in Restorative Justice students. We work with the joint degree JD Marge students. But if you're interested in getting a specialization in restorative justice or energy or food and ag or environmental, that first summer is often a wonderful way to get that coursework specialization, because it then opens you up to be able to use the second and third year to do externships and to take some of the advanced coursework in a variety of different areas. The other reality is that it's your second summer that is the launching pad for most post-law school jobs. Certainly at traditional law schools, that's how it works out. It is less important at a school like BLS, where we have the semester in practice program, because that often is a launching pad for students who haven't yet figured out where they want to live until later in their law school time. And it's also the launching pad for the accelerated students who don't have the benefit of working during their summers. They do coursework, and then do a semester in practice at the tail end of their AJD program. So we are not normal relative to the traditional 3-year program, because that SIP program is a game changer for so many students, and a significant number of students do them. But in the traditional world, it's your first year grades that dictate success at some of the larger employers that second summer. So if you want to go to the National Resource Defense Council or Natural Resource Defense Council, or you want to go to the Department of Justice summer honors program, or you want to work at a large commercial law firm in Boston, DC, or New York, as much as we would like to say that those are not grade-based jobs, they very much are grade-based jobs. And so the better you do your first year of law school, the more options you will have. It's just that simple. And to the extent that doing a job, in addition to going to school, takes time away from that, then the price that you pay could be significant. Having said that, I think, as Melody suggested, it's not well monitored, and there certainly are people who have no choice but to have to work part of the time. And the only thing I would say about that is just do something that allows you to sort of shut your mind down. If it's a Friday night and you're working at a store and just for 5 or 6 hours to make food money, then do something that does not also tax you from a sort of an intellectual perspective. And I don't mean to diminish those jobs. I just mean you want to save your brain power for school. Is that probably way too much?
No, thank you, Abby. Thank you, Abby.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think there's any last questions. I know for the mission scholarships, for those who have applied, I've extended the deadline until April 1st. I'll gather all the materials and should have answers for you shortly thereafter.
Can I add one thing, Katie? I read the question about the recession again that you asked me.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to say, for those of you who are concerned about the financial situation right now, and you project out that you would be graduating 3 years from now, or 2 years from now if you're the AJD, or 1 year from now if you're the master's program, this would be the 5th or 6th recession that I have been through as being head of the Career Services Office at BLS. And while it's it's obviously more fun to look for a job when everybody's got jobs to throw around. The bottom line is, if you go to law school and you study hard and you learn something and you're thoughtful and serious about what it is you're going to do, you will have skills that somebody needs. You might not be able to get the job of your dreams right out of the gate, but odds are you're not going to get that anyway, just because experience is such an important piece of the puzzle. But you are going to have something to offer, and everything that we do in our office is designed to help you find those places that are a good fit for your background, your personality, your the things that you like to do besides work, how much money you need to make. I mean, that all of those things get factored into, and there is no other option. You have to try to find something. So we keep looking, and the economy is going to be what the economy is. I think you can be successful. If I didn't think you could be successful, I would not be sitting here doing a webinar on a Saturday morning, because none of us are interested in, fooling you into going to law school just for the sake of doing it. We want this to be an endeavor that helps you achieve success. And you have to make some choices about what that means for you. But I think once you decide what it is you're thinking about doing for the next couple of years, I think you'll find that there will be opportunity.
Yeah. Thanks, Abby. I don't even know how to end better than that, but it's true. We do believe in all of you, and I am so thankful. And thank you for attending our webinar. And thank you. I survived a crash, and if you all knew me, this has been such a learning curve. This is my second webinar, and thank you, John Miller, in the background, for your support. Immediately, I texted him like, I crashed, like, keep it going. So, and I found my PowerPoint. So I really appreciate everybody, my colleagues, prospective students. Oh, don't miss next Saturday. It's students. I'm going to do a student panel, and that way we can talk. I know there were a few questions about student life, housing, what it's really like. I'll be there just to host, but it's more of you guys asking questions. And I have to tell you, our students are they're transparent. They'll give you the real scoop. So I hope you join me next Saturday. I'm gonna do it. Same bat channel, same bat time, right? Is that right? All right. Had to do it. I've been wanting to do that. All right. So email me if you have any questions. Email anybody on the panel. And thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all.